Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us now. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm at the In-N-Out Burger near the San Francisco airport.
Oh, I really hate you. You want to know why?
Why?
Because In-N-Out Burger is my absolute favorite burger. I want a double in a lettuce wrap, animal style, and you can try it that way, and you'll never go back.
See, there you go. Now, I just want to say I'm looking forward very much to doing your show tonight because it's going to be a big night for Donald Trump. It's going to be a very interesting night on the Democratic side, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. I'm out here actually to give a speech for Bio, which is the biological companies that try to develop cures for various diseases.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine a better day to be in California than the day of their primary.
Pretty fun day, and just be careful. You saw a lot of the violence in San Jose. I don't think you're that far from there, but let me just go to your comments. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because it's getting frustrating, and we've spent a lot of time on it. I think where Trump made his mistake in this particular case, if you look at the judge, this judge has pretty radical connections. The judge is the one that made this a class action suit. The judge is the one that appointed law firms that were connected to Obama, the Clintons, and MoveOn.org. The judge is a member of the La Raza Lawyers Association, which is where I think the whole heritage issue came up. To me, it's a political issue, not a ethnic or heritage issue, but I think his connection to that La Raza Lawyers group is where that came from.
Let me say, first of all, that I don't think it helps Trump to focus on a lawsuit about himself. I mean, Trump's great strength is he's going to change America, and that he wants to draw us to bigger things. And he just had a chance on Friday to spend the whole weekend talking about the fact that this economy last month created one job for every 8,000 Americans. I mean, just a disaster. And so I think there are big things. And Trump's always stronger the bigger he is. Second, as a citizen in a lawsuit, he has every right to complain about this judge and to really complain about the law firm. And I've never objected to that. In fact, if you remember, even on Chris Wallace on Sunday, I said, look, he has every right to attack him. It was only when he got into ethnicity that I thought he went way off the reservation, and I think he's pulled back a fair amount from that. Let's talk about the judge as an individual, and let's talk about the judge's decisions and the judge's associations as an individual. That's perfectly fair game. The American Revolution, the number 2 concern in the American Revolution after no taxation without representation was that the judges had become instruments of the state and people no longer trusted them. And so there's a long American tradition of being willing to take on judges and raise serious questions about them. And this judge has certainly earned that kind of approach, particularly when you look at the record where Trump can point to some 10,000 students who have said that this was a very good course, it was very helpful, including, ironically, the woman who filed the lawsuit who has been taken off the lawsuit.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, and that was the whole other issue involving this lawsuit is the original plaintiff, it was found, actually praised Trump University. And the judge allowed the replacement of the original plaintiff, which to me is just obscene. But, look, for example, if you link to your website, you've heard about this National Council of La Raza, which, by the way, the law firm, the San Diego La Raza Lawyers Association, of which this judge is a part of, is not a branch of the National Council of La Raza, but the website is linked to the San Diego La Raza Lawyers Association. And you may remember that the National Council of La Raza is the, separatist group that believes in the nation of Aztlan and the idea that the southwest part of the United States ought to be given back to Mexico. So it's a pretty radical. So I can see where it came in. I just don't think it's smart to bring it in.
Yeah, look, and I also think the more Trump can shift his game to understand that when you're going to be an alternative president of the United States, you're one of the 2 people who is going to be the leader of the free world, the head of the American government, and in many ways the leader of the American people. That's a very high standard. And he's up against an opponent who, frankly, I think is extraordinarily vulnerable, but he should not try to make himself equally vulnerable. So I think he's got to really think about how he structures his campaign. How does he make the transition from the primary game, which is one kind of game, to a general election game, which is different. And I drew the analogy the other day that he won the nomination, which is one of the great historic achievements. I mean, I would not take anything away from Donald Trump. So he won the nomination against 16 pretty good people, at least a dozen of whom were very, very serious candidates, many of whom we would normally have thought of as a very plausible nominee. Now, he won that, but he won that as a golfer. He really won it by himself, on his own, but with his staff implemented his ideas, his genius, his tweets, his coming on your show. Now he's in a different business. Now he's got guys like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and Reince Priebus, and now he's got so it's more like football. He has an entire team that he's the leader of, but the team has to have plans, and the team has to have plays, and the team has to have some confidence that they're going to operate together. And I don't think that Donald's made the transition yet to being the team leader as opposed to being sort of the lone golfer. And I think he can make that transition. I think he'll be very good at it once he gets it clear in his own head. But that's part of the transition I think we're living through right now.
Have you spoken to Trump after this whole thing or after your comments?
No, I was going to call him later on today. I thought I'd wait a day or two because we clearly it's the most he and I have ever been in direct disagreement. And knowing him reasonably well, I figured he'd be happy to not talk to me for a day or two.
Well, your name has been floated quite often as a potential VP candidate.
Look, I mean, you're probably my biggest booster, and I love.
I think it would be a great ticket. I think you were the name one other speaker in modern history that balanced the budget.
No. My only point is that's not what this is about right now.
I understand. You're not applying for the job. I get it, but I'm not either being positive about Trump so he might pick me, nor am I being negative about Trump so he won't pick me. I did over the weekend what I thought as a leader of my party I had an obligation to do. I'm a little frustrated, though, with people like Paul Ryan and Lindsey Graham. I really am. I'm very, very convinced that the establishment in Washington wants him to lose. That if it was Hillary, if it was Obama, they'd bend over backwards to find out and understand what it is that the person is saying. And if it's Donald Trump, they want to pile on as quickly as possible.
Actually, in Ryan's case, I don't think that's accurate. I mean, Ryan was actually more cautious and more circumspect than I was. So was McConnell. I mean, McConnell was very disciplined in what he said. And so was Bob Corker. I mean, Graham, Lindsey's just Lindsey. I mean, Lindsey's totally off the wall. He's always been off the wall.
But for Paul Ryan to say that this is the textbook definition of a racist comment, that is off the wall, considering if he actually looked into the judge's background, that's just not fair.
Well, but the statement, I think the actual statement was not defensible. And that's the only point. I mean, the right to attack is totally defensible. I think Trump has a good case that in fact, the judge has been wrong and the law firm has been wrong. But I think we need to move on. I mean, we have a lot of other issues. And I thought when we did O'Reilly last night, I thought Trump was very good. He was very focused. He handled this thing with grace and with calmness. And moved on.
I didn't see it. What did he say?
Well, I mean, he basically said, look, it's really not about the guy's background. It's really about the guy's behavior, and it's about his associations. I mean, he really narrowed it down to if he had said originally what he said last night, there would have been no issue. None.
No. Oh, look, everyone. You know what? You're going to be on the campaign trail. You make mistakes. Let me move forward. You know what my frustration comes from? I'm going to be very blunt with you. My frustration is that I find Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and a lot of other Republicans are far more willing to fight Donald Trump than they ever dared fight Barack Obama. That's where I'm frustrated. And as a result, Obama got his entire agenda passed.
Look, and it's easy to do because the news media applauds you if you take on Donald Trump, and the news media attacks you if you take on Barack Obama. So there's a lot more headwind doing your job and taking on Obama. But at the same time, my only point is, I think that Donald Trump has the opportunity to win an historic election. I think he has a chance starting at the convention to bring us together as a country. I think he can prove that he wants to run an American coalition that's much bigger than the Republican Party. And I'm very excited by the possibility that in Cleveland, we're going to see a historic turning point, and that's what I hope Trump will focus on. He has a great opportunity to bring together the vast majority of Americans who understand that the job situation is a disaster.
He really has shown a capacity, and I think you more than anybody have pointed this out. He has shown a particularly strong growth curve in terms of a guy that, he wasn't even in politics a year ago.
Right, and I think he'll keep growing. I'm optimistic. I think that he'll keep growing. I think he has a chance here to do some things that are really different than we've ever seen, and I think that that's what he should focus on. The bigger he is and the bigger his ideas are, the better off we are. And I think it's only when he starts to get down into smaller things that he has a challenge. But when he gets big enough, the American people drown the news media, and that's why he was able to get nominated despite all the opposition from all the different media. And I think that if he runs a campaign of very big choices between he and Hillary, he'll beat her decisively, and in the process, he'll create a new majority that could govern for a generation.
What does these polls mean to you now, these state polls, head-to-head matchup, Hillary versus Trump?
Well, I think Trump's had a bad 2 weeks in the news media, and I think that Hillary's had some positives in the sense that she's gradually grinding down Sanders. So I think she looks a little stronger than she did 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I don't think that lasts very long. And I think, as I tried to say to people all weekend, the biggest political news last week was not Donald Trump, and it wasn't Hillary Clinton. It was the unemployment numbers on Friday and the fact that this economy is a disaster. Between regulations and taxes and anti-entrepreneur, anti-small business attitudes, the Obama administration has ground the American economy to the lowest point since the Great Depression. And people know it. They feel it in their lives. They feel it in trying to do jobs. 25 million people have dropped out of the middle class. And Obamacare is grinding down small business and is crushing middle-class people.
Do you know one in 5 families don't have a single family member in the workforce? Do you know that 1 in 6 adult men 18 to 34 are either in jail or out of work?
I know this, and that's what we should be talking about. The Democratic Party's vision of how the world works ultimately leads you to the kind of collapse they had in Venezuela. Now, and the fact is that we should take them head on. We should be saying to Hillary Clinton, is the Obama record of creating one job for every 8,000 Americans, is that good enough for you? Right. Are you really comfortable saying you want to continue that?
I gotta run, but you're going to be joining us. I hope you're not going to be in any big rallies tonight where these people throwing eggs at people.
I never look. If I show up with some egg on me, we'll just we'll try to find a way to clean
during
it up.
During the RNC convention, you want to hang out with me? I'm bringing my sensei who has 14 black belts, multiple degrees. He's my bodyguard for the whole week. You want to hang out with me?
There we go. All righty.
All right, Mr. Speaker.